FFA membership? If not, do we have anything in the chat? Okay, then we're going to roll on.
Anything appropriate.
Yeah, nothing appropriate, he says. Okay, so we're going to move on now and talk about our FFA career development events. I sent you a Word document on Friday that I'm going to let you kind of look over some things. Again, we tried to sit down and dream up every situation we could think of and try to make sure that we could cover that, and that every kid, whether they were in the class, whether they were at home, whether all 4 of them were at home, some were at home, some were at school. I mean, we've had so many different situations explained to us of how school's being taught. It was quite a challenge to try to make sure we're covering every kid that we can cover, but we think we got it. So we're going to let y'all kind of pick it apart, but we're going to walk through it. We'll start with some general guidelines, and just so you can see it better, I'm going to have Josh share a screen, and then we'll walk through the guidelines, and then we're going to walk through
one last thing. I am told that you
Okay. All right. So we're going to start off with registration. Registration is going to be done just like we've always done it. The only difference to registration is that we're going to be kind of bound to end registration a little earlier than y'all are used to. We've tried to let registration extend closer and closer to the day of the actual event, and because we feel like that helps people do substitutions on the event's registration and helps keep us from having to find students who were not FFA members. And so we're going to let that go as long as we can. But conducting CDEs virtually, we're going to have to, my screen's gone. We're going to have to probably limit the registration to closing down a week from the actual event. So that's going to be because we've got to send some stuff off to this QBank system. We've got to get codes for you, the teacher, and that's going to take us a little time. So the biggest thing you'll see as a difference there is that we're going to have to close registration a good bit earlier than normal. I'm going to ask you to do your absolute best to try to adhere to those deadlines. It's always been our philosophy that when we get to a CDE and if Brandon's setting up the forestry CDE and a team rolls in that did not register and we had no idea they were coming, we're not going to put kids back on the bus and send them home. Just not going to do it. In this situation, that's not going to be possible, because on the day of an event, if you call and say, I've got 4 kids that want to do this event, that's not going to be an option. We're not going to have codes for your kids to log into the QBank system, and you're going to be disappointed. So I'm just asking you up front to work with us on that as best you can. When we tell you it's a deadline this year, it's probably going to have to be a hard deadline, and after that, we're going to have to tell you it's just too late, because we're not the ones that are going to be in control all the way to the time of the contest. When registration has been closed, you'll receive some codes for your students. They will be able to log into the QBank system. When they enter this code, the test that they are registering to take will be an option. They'll take it online, and then they'll log back out. All right. Now, we've got, of course, people that are, obviously some common sense worries. You can scroll it on up now, John. Some common sense worries are that how are we going to kind of make sure this is done with all the integrity that we can put into it? Well, so this is where the testing and the proctoring protocols come in. We're going to ask that all FFA teams participating in a virtual CDE that include an online exam must be proctored by a third party for the duration of the exam. In other words, we'd like you to get another adult to watch those 4 kids take that test other than yourself. And that's just to make sure they don't talk while they're taking the test. That's to make sure they're not looking at their phones while they're taking their test. And they're not looking up stuff on the internet, and they're not going, leaving and coming back. We're going to ask that each team should have a single proctor. However, an individual proctor may proctor more than one CDE at a time, provided they meet all the guidelines that we're going to fix in the outline. And that is to say that one proctor could proctor a junior and a senior team, if that's what you're doing. Okay, that would be fine. We're going to ask that these proctors be over 21. We started tossing around parents being proctors, and we thought, yes, that's a good idea. You probably got some parents that would help you out in that regard, but we would say that no parent could serve as a proctor for an event where their child is participating. Ag teachers, if you've got multi-teachers in your school or in your county, can serve as proctors for other ag teachers, as long as the teacher that's doing the proctoring does not have a team registered in the event and did not participate in the training of the team that they're proctoring. We're asking that the proctor ensure that the students taking the exam do not access any outside material, and we're asking them to ensure that they do not communicate in any form or fashion with one another during the exam. Our biggest security feature is going to be number 7. And we're going to ask that when you have your students taking this QBank exam, that all of those team participants log on together and take that exam simultaneously, okay? We don't want situations where you've got 2 of those students in your first period class, so you went ahead and let them log in and take the exam. The other 2 on that team are going to come after school. We don't want to put students in that situation where 2 of them might communicate with 2 of them that have already taken the exam and expect those students to resist that urge or that temptation to share information or things that they didn't know about or something caught them off guard. We don't think a student should be put in that position. So we are going to require that all of them take the exam at the same time. The QBank exams, when they come back to us, are going to have timestamps on them, so we will know when they logged in. Now, I'm going to say this to say that we understand that we have them ourselves pretty much on a regular basis. You're going to have technical issues. So if you have 4 students and they're all logging in to take that exam and something's happened to one, maybe they're the one that's at home, they're having trouble getting on, things are going real bad, you're going to need to get in touch with the area teacher that is in charge of that particular event and get them in the loop very quickly, okay? So that we can understand, we know what the problem is, we can stay with you till we get it worked out. And then when we get those QBank results and that student logged in 20 minutes after everybody else did, we know why. And we were part of that, and we were aware of it in real time, and we can say that it's okay, all right? But don't let a student, or don't let 2 students or whatever log in 30 minutes after the first kid logged in. That's going to be a serious issue that's probably going to require that team be disqualified, okay? All right, the preferred method of proctoring and administering an exam, of course, is to have all the team members physically present and under the supervision of a proctor. Now, we also know that might be a pie in the sky pipe dream. By the time we get around to actually giving all these exams, we may all be back at home, and so you're going to have 4 kids all taking this exam from 4 different locations. Now, we got to make sure that works. And here's how we're going to do it. We still are going to insist and require that all team members still log in and take the exam simultaneously. You'll need to set that up. You'll need to make sure that they all understand how important it is that none of them log in early, that they all log in at 4 o'clock or 4:15 or whatever time you decide. All those team members that are participating from a remote location still need to be proctored. We still need to have some adult eyes on those students while they take that exam. Now, the way we see this happening is how we did the area officer exam back in June. What we would say is that you would need to set up a proctor who can set up a Zoom or a similar format meeting with those 4 students. Those 4 students could log into that Zoom meeting very similar to what y'all are now. They could have their phone set up so that it shows them and their testing device, and that they have full view for the proctor, and then they'll have a separate electronic device where they can log in and take the QBank exam, okay? And that's what we would require for all 4 students to take that in a remote location. We think that's going to work. That's how we did the area officer exam back in June. It was pretty simple. All the students logged into a Zoom meeting, set their phone up, and then logged into the testing site and took the test, and we sat there and watched every one of them. So that would be up to you. It's going to take a little legwork on your part to get a proctor and get meetings set up through either Google Meets or Zoom or any other platform that your school approves of. Have that proctor watch those 4 kids, have them all log in at the same time. Now, on the day of the event, we got, again, a whole wide range of situations out there. We're not all doing the same thing. So we feel like the only way to make it convenient or easiest as we can make it on you and your students is on the day of this event, the testing site is going to open at 8 a.m. and stay open till 5. That means that your 4 students could log in and take that test as early as 8 o'clock or as late as 5 o'clock. All right. Now, once they're logged in, you will be given the allotted time set by the exam and the area teacher that built the exam and the time limit that they put on it. They'll have that amount of time to take the exam regardless of when they logged in. So if you logged in at 4:55, then they might still have 2 hours to take the floriculture exam in its entirety, but you're going to have to get logged in by 5. Now, I know you probably know this better than I, but please don't wait till 4:55 to log in, because here's the other side of that we have no control over. If you try to log into that testing site at 4:55 and you have some internet connectivity issues, and it goes after 5 o'clock, we cannot fix that, okay? It's not our testing site, and we're not driving the bus on the testing site. So if you wait too long and you have issues and 5 o'clock comes and goes, there's just not going to be anything we're going to be able to do to help you, okay? So that's going to be the biggest difference, I think, this whole semester, is that we are going to be not in control of every level of this activity like we normally are. Okay, any questions then on some of those general guidelines before we talk about the specific events?
Stan, you had several questions from the group chat. A couple of them,
Yep.
One from Emily Murphy and one from Kevin Surratt, dealing with how do you get proctors who are not family members in the home?
Okay, well, if they're not, you would have to have a proctor probably at your school, or they could proctor from home. It could be a third party. It could be, Kevin, you could not proctor your own kids taking that final exam. However, someone else in your home could, say a spouse could proctor those kids. They would set up a meeting much like we've got now. You'd have to invite those 4 kids to either a Google Hangout, a Google Meets, or a Zoom, or a Team, or anything like that. And you set up that meeting, those 4 kids would join that meeting. You've got them now on video. You've got them on the grid view of your screen. You're going to watch all 4 of them, and then you're going to tell them, okay, I've got all 4 of you. I need to be able to see you and your computer screen the whole time. And then you can tell them, all right, y'all may begin, y'all log in and take off. And then you're going to sit there and watch them. But they're not going to be in the home. We did not feel like it was very secure for a parent to be able to proctor their own kid taking that test. Not that the parents would cheat, but maybe the parents might not even recognize what something that would be inappropriate was. They might not know whether or not that student can access other material. They may not be aware of the guidelines. And I don't want a situation where a student just goes up to their room and logs in, takes that test, and comes back downstairs and says, okay, Mom, I'm done. Okay? We're trying to maintain as much security as we can. And folks, you know, this is kind of a two-way street, because I've had some teachers say, what's wrong? You don't trust us? And what I would say to that is, I've been a teacher. We don't trust each other, okay, when it comes to CDEs. It's not about me and the area teachers. We're not going to have a team in that fight. So what we're trying to do is maintain your integrity and everybody else's integrity, so that if whoever wins that contest wins it with the feeling that nobody else is going to be walking away from that situation accusing you of having done anything that was underhanded or took advantage of a situation. We're trying to protect the integrity of the team that wins, so that they can feel deserving of having won, and the other teams that they beat will be okay with that. And that's what we're trying to maintain. Next question.
You also had a question about from Marcus Pollard about, was the code student specific, or will the code work for an alternate student if something came up?
Well, some of this we're still working out, and we think that it will work for an alternate student if something comes up. Okay? So the problem on the alternate student is going to be the same problem as we have with substitutes when we get into a live version of that career development event. I know it's kind of a pain, and we had some people that, you know, we offended some people from time to time, but when you make a substitution on the day of that event, we ask to see them on your FFA roster. We ask to see their membership number, and we verify right then before we let them participate that they're on your roster. When you have 4 students that you registered for an event, and then on the day of you substitute one of them in that virtual by giving the other student that login code, I think it will work, okay, but it's still going to get sent to us the next day, and we won't have a chance to vet that student out before they actually take that exam. And so if we check them the next day and they're actually not on your roster, it's going to result in a disqualification. So I don't know if y'all know this. This is something I know very well. In the last 6 years, we have not disqualified a team from anything. I probably went the first 5 years disqualifying at least one or so a year. And it's about the most unpleasant thing you've ever done in your life, is to call a teacher and tell them, oh yeah, remember when we told you you won? Well, now you're disqualified. And that's a terrible thing. So our mechanisms over the past 6 years have pretty much resulted in none of that. And that's great. This will make that an option again, because if you substitute, we will not be able to vet that student out before they do the contest. So we think it'll work. We'll have a little more information on that when we get there. My advice to you would be to try to make sure we don't do any substituting unless it is absolutely necessary. All right? All right. We got one more question.
There's a question about the angle of the Zoom proctor. Where does the explain? I need to explain that the student needs to have 2 devices.
Right. If you're having to proctor an event remotely, and you've got 4 students at home and a proctor who may also be at their home, okay? So we've got 5 different locations, and what we would do, would set up that meeting through Google Meets or Zoom. The students are going to all have to have 2 electronic devices. And one of them will be the device that they access the testing site on and take the test. The other device will be what they join the proctoring format platform with. And all we would do with that is say, set that phone is what I would assume. I'm going to join that Zoom meeting. I'm going to join that Google Meets on my phone. And then I'm going to set that phone, much like my camera is set up now, where you can see me and you can see my on-screen device. And then I'm just going to leave it there. And that proctor can watch that grid screen of those 4 students until they're done. That's what we would ask. Now, we're not going to be able to verify that. We're going way out on just saying much of this is going to be on your shoulders, and we're going to ask you to follow those guidelines. And we don't have proctor police that can come around and come in and see if all that's happening. We're going to trust the integrity. I know that nobody out here wants to win a contest and have people, feel like they didn't earn it. So I don't think it's going to be an issue. I think it's something we're all getting a lot better at than we were 6 months ago, and I don't think it's that going to be that big a hindrance. So that's how we foresee this come into play. All right, let's talk about some of the specific events now.
Hey, Stan, hang on just a second. I got one more question about the Zoom, and it's the question that their school system won't allow them to use Zoom. So just wondered if you would address that for everybody who may be wondering the same thing.
Right. Yeah, we've got, we've had several systems that have contacted us. We've had several systems contact the DOE. Billy has met in person with the DOE kind of IT security guru. We've walked through this. I'll be honest with you. We chose Zoom as a state for this whole setup because I think I've met in every platform there is. We can't afford too many technical issues because, again, like I told you, we don't have control of this process from start to finish. So a technical issue could knock your kid out of participating and we can't fix it. We can't do anything about it. So Zoom for us has been the most friendly platform to work with. It does everything we need it to do. You'll see when we talk about the individual events, we're going to have kids come into a waiting room, and then when they go to their speaking event, we can transfer them to a breakout room 1, a breakout room 2, and a breakout room 3. Each of those rooms will have a panel of 3 judges. They can give their speech, they can give the creed, they can do what they came to do. It can be judged just like a in-person event. And that system for us works very well and is simple, and I think students can handle it, and teachers can handle it, and we can handle it. So far, I'll be honest with you, Billy has had very good luck explaining that to the head of DOE's IT security. And in terms of the proctoring part of this entire CDE idea of ours, we don't care what you use. If your school won't allow you to use Zoom, don't use it. Use whatever they'll allow you to use. If they'll allow you to use Google Meets, then use Google Meets. If you're just proctoring, just about any one of these platforms would be sufficient. I've done Microsoft Teams, and if that's what your school system wants to use, the problem there is that every one of your kids is going to have that downloaded onto their iPhone as an app or downloaded into a laptop. You have to have that on your electronic device. Google Meets, I think a lot of schools are going all Google, doing Google Classroom, Google Meets. That's fine. I've been doing Google Hangouts with the other region directors about once a week for 10 years. So, you know, any of those, you can see the other 4 participants and you could proctor that meeting through any of those platforms. Your school system might have another. We don't care what platform you use to proctor, as long as you have a grown person over 21 with eyes on the 4 students that are taking that test. All right, let's talk about our specific events. All right, we're going to do discussion meet virtually. When registration for this event is closed, you will be sent an appointment time and a link to a Zoom meeting. After you enter that Zoom meeting, the participants will be randomly assigned to a discussion room. When they get transferred into that breakout discussion room, there will be judges present, and the event from that point will proceed pretty much as a normal in-person event. The judges will watch the discussion and they will score them accordingly, and the finalists will be notified, and those finalists will advance to the discussion meet finals that will be held in October. All right, the employment skills. The biggest change on employment skills is that we're going to ask for you to submit your resume and cover letter, and then we're going to kind of do a cut to the top 10 based on their cover letter and resume score. Then we will invite the top 10 to come to the area contest. You'll be sent a Zoom link on October 26th. The interview order will be randomly determined, and then upon entering the Zoom meeting, we'll transfer you to an interview room where they will conduct a 10-minute interview in front of a panel of judges. It will be very similar to the in-person event at that point. The results will be made public, and the top 2 will advance to the state competition. Extemporaneous speaking, it's a little more difficult. We'll send you a Zoom link and a time appointment after registration is closed. When your student enters that Zoom meeting, we will ask them to choose 3 numbers instead of turning over 3 topic cards. Those 3 numbers will correlate to 18 different speech topics. We will let them know which 3 speech topics they just chose, and they will select one of those. Once they have selected one of those, they will then be transferred to a breakout room for 30 minutes to write that speech. At the end of 30 minutes, we'll go get them out of the breakout room, and we will then transfer them to a judge's room where they will give that extemporaneous speech to a panel of 3 judges. We'll take the top 2 out of each room like we always do. They'll be notified the next day, and they will continue on to the speaking finals in December. For the creed, much the same. Registration is closed. You'll be sent an appointment time and a link to a Zoom meeting. They'll be randomly assigned to a speaking room. Once they come to the Zoom meeting, they'll be in the waiting room. We will take them into the meeting, and then we will transfer them to a judge's room. They will give that creed to a panel of judges. Obviously, the biggest thing here is that all of your students in these events are going to need to have a device that can record them with a camera that they can stand in front of. They've already had hopefully some help with you setting up, where to stand and things like that so that they can be seen well. The judges will then listen to that creed. We'll take the top 2 out of each room. They'll advance to the creed finals on December 7th. Junior and senior prepared public speaking are going to be much the same. They'll register. We'll send you a Zoom link. We'll send you an appointment time. They'll enter the Zoom meeting. We'll assign them to a judge's room. We'll transfer them to that breakout room. They'll give their speech. Judges will score it just like they would if it were in person. The big hurdle there will be to just make sure your speaker has a good video camera, and they're set up with access to a speaker and a good microphone so that they can look good. They know where to stand and X on the floor, whatever you want to do. but I think that would be something that would need to be practiced, whether they're giving that speech to you remotely, virtually, many times, so that you can kind of give them advice and practice with them so that we know that their camera and their microphone work. Senior prepared, the only difference is we'll ask them questions, and that'll be part of the scoring. Okay, those will be our LDEs. They will be the ones that are going to, right now, our plan is to utilize Zoom as the platform. And we're working with DOE. So far, so good. I'm hoping that we're going to be able to say, no, Zoom has given us the go-ahead. DOE has given us the go-ahead to use Zoom. Yeah, I guess the drop dead option will always be that, you know, if a kid is at home, hopefully they're not forbidden to use Zoom. If we have to change platforms, then we have to change platforms. We'll do what they tell us we have to do. So far, there have been very few systems that have really, once they've understood what we're doing and how we're doing it, we've had very few systems that have put up a lot of resistance to that. And DOE is working with us to help try to make sure we can alleviate their concerns. So what I would tell you is this: if you're one of those systems who have been told you can't do it, and you've explained to them, you've showed them these guidelines, and you still think they're going to be a no, then if you'll contact me, we'll work through that. Maybe DOE will give them some assurance a little later when we get work through that process. All right, those are all the LDEs that are going to utilize Zoom. Here are coming up, our section 4 is going to be the CDEs that are going to utilize the QBank testing system. The first one's going to be AdCom. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on these because I think they're pretty self-explanatory. When you register, we'll send you a code on the date of that event. You will be able to log in anytime between 8 and 5. Again, you must log in all at the same time. They'll take a 25-question multiple choice AdCom quiz, and then they'll do a 25-question multiple choice editing exam. The next day, we will be notified by QBank of the results, and we will make it public. Farm Business Management, very similar. We'll send you a code. They'll take a 50-question multiple choice exam online. They'll have an hour and a half to complete that exam, and then we'll score it. The top 2 teams will advance. FFA quiz, going to be a little bit of a hybrid. You're going to log into the quiz on the day of the quiz. They're going to take the quiz on the QBank site. We will score that, and then the top 3 students ranked by their quiz score will then be notified, and on the second day, they will join a Zoom meeting and be asked oral questions, which is the way we would do it live. Okay, so if you've got a kid taking the quiz, they need to know that on day 1, they'll take the quiz. Day 2, they need to be at least prepared to be in the top 3 and then be invited to a Zoom meeting where we'll ask them the oral question. Floriculture, same thing. They'll log in on the day of. They'll take a 25-question multiple choice ID exam. They'll do a general, that will be general knowledge. They'll do an identification exam. They'll do 10-question multiple choice disorders, 5-question multiple choice problem solving. They will be given 2 hours to complete the entire exam. We'll follow the testing protocols that we outlined above, whether you're sitting in the room with a proctor watching them or whether it be virtual proctoring. Junior floriculture will be 25-question multiple choice identification and a 25-question general knowledge exam. They'll be given an hour to complete the junior floriculture component. Meets evaluation is going to be a little bit different. They're going to log in just like everything else, but it will be a 25-question multiple choice identification, because they'll look at the cuts of meat and they will identify the retail cut of meat. They will also identify the primal. They'll also identify the cookery and the cooking method. So they will make several multiple choices on each one of those 25 question ID samples. Then they'll also do 3 placing classes. Junior meats will be 20 multiple choice identification and 3 placing classes. Okay. Next day, they'll make the results public. Nursery Landscape, 25 question identification exam, 25 question general knowledge exam, a 10 question disorder, 10 question landscape estimating practicum, all through QBank. Your students will be allowed 2 hours. Junior Nursery Landscape will be 25 ID and 25 general knowledge. All the same testing protocols will be in place. Proctors will be used, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. Wildlife management, junior and senior will include 20 question multiple choice whitetail deer management, 20 question on game bird biology, a general wildlife exam, 25 question multiple choice for aquatic identification exam. They'll, I can't see the time allowed. What's the time allowed? Brandon, how much time will be allowed?
2 hours.
2 hours. Okay, 2 hours for the wildlife management exam, and same thing, going to be proctored, follow all the guidelines, maintain the best security that we can maintain, and we'll announce the results the next day. So, in a nutshell, I know that's kind of quick. If anybody's got any questions about anything, you didn't quite understand how something might be handled, type it in the chat. We'll throw it out there and talk about it. Got any questions? Anything in the chat?
I've got the question about with multiple teachers, it's inevitable that we will have to do an event that will require Zoom. Right now, our system will not allow Zoom while they're looking into it. There's no guarantee. How will that affect POW standards if the system flat out refuses or can't allow it, especially in multiple teacher programs?
Well, if I would encourage us, I think the thing that's going to be our biggest friend this entire school year, I'd like to say first semester, but I'm trying to be prepared. Our best friend is going to be communication. So we're not trying to do a gotcha. We're not trying to set something up that we know you can't meet and then trick you into this and that, folks. I hope you know that that's not us. That's not what we're here to do. I guess I would say I need to be in pretty constant communication about what's going on and how we might could get around this. I've been doing this a long time, and I know a lot of you have too. I've met very few problems that I could not solve. I mean, I just think we can fix everything. Okay. That's just the way I live. I don't ever think that something can't be fixed. So I think we can fix it. And I think if you'll let me know, then maybe we can fix it together. And if we can't fix it, then that's not all the LDEs. I mean, we've got some LDEs second semester. I don't know whether this question was from a middle school standpoint or high school, but I just know we can work it out. So if you'll let me know your situation, we're not going to try to, we're just not going to try to play gotcha. If I've been in communication with your system and you really do have something that they're not allowing you to do, it's just like everything else. I get teachers every year that say, we've got a mandatory faculty meeting or open house or something, and there's just no way I can be at this area teacher meeting. We'll work it out. We've never tried to use that as an excuse to cut anybody's money.